Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters Week 6, day number 1. Today is May 22nd, 2020. And a lot's happened during this day in history. There's been a lot going on, but actually just close the tab, TJ, so give me 5 seconds to stall. God, I had something for this, I swear. All right. Wow, it's just giving me generic stuff. All right, forget it. I'll come back to it in just a second. But coming up, we have Empanizado versus bloodyface as our first match for today. And we have a pretty different lineup for a lot of the players, but it looks like bloodyface this week decided to go back to the spell druid as one of his anchors. What do you think about bloodyface's lineup?
I mean, overall, it's kind of the more standard approach, I think, to the metagame this week. Which is weird to say because this is like a very popular lineup in Asia Pacific, which usually that's not the standard lineup for the metagame. It's just kind of running the overall like power decks. That none of his decks really have any significant weakness. He's got the Secret Galakron Rogue, which is one of the most consistent decks, maybe not the highest win rate deck, but has decent matchups overall. The Tempo Demon Hunter, which, even after the balance change to Crimson Sigil Runner, Priestess of Fury wasn't even run in Americas anyway. It's still, proving to be a fantastic deck. And then Spell Druid, I honestly think is one of the best decks in the metagame currently, especially when you're banning away a warrior, because, the powerful start from Druid is still not dealt with by almost any class. And with most players running Ysera Unleashed in the top end and the additional minion package by running 2 Mount Sellers, their ability to generate big waves of threats is just incredible. And it feels like they never run out of stuff. You have to have a ton of removal on time to be able to beat that deck. And Empanizado, kind of similar, except in place of the Rogue, he does have Quest Warlock. And his Druid is a little bit different. He's running the Dragon Spell Druid, which is kind of a hybrid. It still runs like the Fungal Fortune Glowfly Swarm, but its big power comes from like Breath of Dreams for additional ramp. He has Twin Tyrant, Alexstrasza, and Malygos in the top end with a few swipes. So it's kind of a deck that is similar to the Spell Druid in that it likes to generate these big boards and ramp up. But instead of entirely relying on building up board after board, you do have options for burst with Malygos later on in the game. So a very interesting take on the deck. One thing I do want to point out, though, is the fact that Empanizado's not running the Imprisoned Satyr, which we've seen as a popular card in this type of deck because you can get a reduced cost Malygos or Ysera or Alexstrasza. But you do have to make some cuts because the more minions you run, the more likely Fungal Fortunes is to discard cards. So you have to find a balance.
Yep, balance indeed. So as we go into the first game, the Demon Hunter Mirror, keep that in mind as we slowly approach the point of the series. We'll play decks like the Druid. The Twin Slice here for bloodyface, just super good to pick up so that way he can be mana efficient in some capacity. I kind of expected bloodyface to develop something. I was kind of anticipating perhaps using the coin for the Umberwing, but then I guess that would also mess up the curve for the rest of the game. Well, rather just for turns 4 would be awkward going into turn 5. So bloodyface chooses to just be a little bit defensive here. What do you think about that, TJ? Instead of just developing from bloodyface?
Demons.
It's actually interesting. Because he still had a curve. He could have done that play, coined out the Battle Fiend, got Umberwing next turn.
Yeah, I guess
I wonder
because...
what he's scared of, though. He's scared of a big Temple Swing on the other side, like Umberwing plus like Twin Slice? Something along those lines?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
So turn 2 is often played through something like Umberwing or Sightless Watcher. I guess Bloodyface would have also kind of gotten punished from the Acidic Swamp Ooze if he played Umberwing, so that makes sense to me. I think maybe in Bloodyface's mind, he has more of a reactive hand. The only thing proactive was Battle Fiend. So if he wants to save Frozen Shadow Weaver for turn 4 going into turn 5, he would actually kind of be floating mana for the next couple of turns. And then he also has the opportunity to coin out the Warglaives of Azzinoth in case he needs to respond dramatically to the board stage. So I think he just wanted to keep his hand flexible. Is the read that I'm...
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Having a dead turn is oftentimes worse than not going full out proactive in the early game.
Right.
Because we've seen, Demon Hunter can swing tempo in an instant, and having more options allows you to kind of make sure that you don't have a turn where you allow your opponent to fall behind, or where you allow yourself to fall behind in the matchup. Because one turn of not doing anything in the Demon Hunter mirror could sometimes means you're taking 6-7 damage, and then your opponent can just race you, and it doesn't matter if you had tempo in the first couple turns, because what matters is these turns right now where both players are starting to play their more powerful cards.
Yeah, I think the Satyr was always the player for Bloodyface, but he did have a moment of hesitation because, one, he does have Altruist to Outcast, but his hand, in terms of the Outcast, is a little bit clunky, right? He would have to either draw the ideal card next turn, or he would have to wait till the Workers of Azzinoth had been used. But that Altruist is a big swing. So once more, Bloodyface setting up his reactive hand ends up turning into a proactive opportunity over the course of a couple turns. And we saw exactly this show up last week when Bloodyface faced Galen and was just kind of biding his time for that dramatic swing with Altruist against the Zoo Warlock, which ended up winning him the game. Now, Empanizado, his plays are a little bit more restrictive, but he does have a way to answer the Satyr Overseer. But what comes after the Chaos Strike is more of the question here for Empanizado. Depending on what he draws, it could vary. Because the hero power is kind of wasted, so Beaming Sidekick is not exactly great here.
Yeah.
Developing the Acidic Swamp Ooze, and then your opponent plays Warglaives of Azzinoth, feels really bad. And it's interesting that he kept the Chaos Strike here. The average draw in his deck, we have to kind of weigh, like, what's the value of holding on to Chaos Strike versus drawing deep in your deck to have something proactive.
Well, he does have Warglaives of Azzinoth in hand, which means that, unless exactly Warglaives comes out on the other side, he assumed that he would have a guaranteed play for 5 mana. And the Chaos Strike does have synergy with Warglaives because it allows you to chew through more of the board and push a little bit of additional base damage. And like you mentioned, the Chaos Strike was kind of wasted there. It would just be, if he didn't have a play lined up, then it would allow him to find that. But he did have a play, but now he may want to get rid of this Warglaives. But at the same time, there's only one charge left, and his turn would be dead otherwise.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think the Acidic Swamp Boost to remove the charge actually has a lot of benefit because it stops the Gladebound Adept from coming down so cleanly and pressuring his life total.
Yeah.
And so Empanizado clearly agrees. Still has that mana for next turn in case he needs to use the Warglaives or the Gladebound follow-up. So I like this. It's good.
Now, finally, Battle Fiend hitting the board.
Right.
It's been in his hands since the opening turn, and just now plays it to try and go for a big swing. And honestly, this kind of worked out. It's hard to tell how the game would have gone if he had played the Battle Fiend on one with the coin. But this allowed him to coin out Warglaives, which maybe put Empanizado off a more powerful turn. And now, Empanizado's worried about these Battle Fiends because they're going to continue hitting him, but he doesn't really have a good option to remove anything unless Vulpera Scoundrel kind of bails him out here with maybe a second I-Beam.
Yeah, Warglaives could also just come down here and maybe just start to pressure your opponent. So if you have Warglaives and Hero Power will kill off 2 of these Battle Fiends and then hit your opponent for 4. So your opponent goes at 11. The next turn you have the Warglave's hit plus the Glaive-bound Adept for 7 more guaranteed damage if your opponent doesn't play Taunt. And that puts you pretty close to maybe just end the game with that Vulpera Scoundrel draw. So I like the spot here from Empanizado. The only thing is bloodyface does have a way to tilt things in his favor, and that's where Frozen Shadow Weaver comes into play. Ooh, but that's a Twin Slice.
Whoa.
Not a really efficient way to use the rest of his mana. But Twin Slice with the Altruist, though, is a surprising amount of damage. So this could be a photo finish here, TJ.
Yeah, each of these Twin Slice paths represents 2 additional damage with Altruist, assuming that nothing crazy happens with Frozen Shadow Weaver freezing his face. And if bloodyface picks up, like you said, another damage card, he's close already. And Empanizado doesn't have a fantastic turn here. Glaive-bound Adept can't be active because his face is frozen, so I-Beam's going to be pretty difficult to... or not difficult, because he could still just play Glaive-bound Adept and I-Beam down the Frozen Shadow Weaver. It's just way less effective. But that could be an option, because he puts a 6/4 in play. He goes up to 17 with just 2 1/1s on board. And he still has his Warglave's Masnoth equipped.
Warlock.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
TJ,
Grows short.
I think Skull Gul'dan is a perfectly good card. I think this was pretty greedy with Empanizado. I think I like the Glaive-bound Adept I-Beam line. I also would have been okay with Vulpera Scoundrel first to kind of react and then I-Beam and then have that 2/3 on board.
I grow
The Skull Gul'dan, while there's incredible a series of draws that could, pay off, also feels like it is easy to get punished because this was a really poor development turn.
Yeah.
But he does have combo damage in the form of Altruist and Glaive-bound Adept.
Well, I mean, he just has double Glaive-bound Adept. He can swing and play both in a turn,
Yeah,
and which
And
is exact lethal.
Lethal.
Yeah, it is, and bloodyface does not quite have enough here. He's going to be 2 damage short from
Yeah.
killing bloodyface, and Empanizado found a way to win.
So that pretty greedy play pays off
Yeah.
really well. And I think that's a crucial victory. It's a play that I didn't exactly have the bravery for myself, but ends up being exactly what Empanizado needed. And that's the power of the Demon Hunter, just being able to swing it back 2 turns. Pushing out big damage, and Empanizado closes out the mirror with a Game 1 victory. Well done. Well done. Again, it was like a play that I wasn't sure about because it felt like it had a lot of opportunity to just not do anything.
Yeah.
If you end up developing other 1-drops and number 1, you just kind of would have gotten blown out. But at the same time, that kind of risk and reward is something that are always in the player's mind, and I think he weighed the risks appropriately and was rewarded handsomely.
Yeah. He did have a couple of ways to maybe even stabilize even further that turn. Like if he picks up I-Beam or Frozen Shadow Weaver, those would have been playable with the 1 mana remaining. But it was a risk, and he picked up the lethal. If he hadn't, it was very likely that bloodyface kills him the next turn. He was at 2 life with a pretty big board, a 4 health Altruist. So, and that's a big one. Winning the mirror matchups in these types of situations is crucial. And we've seen Demon Hunter seem to be a weak point in a lot of lineups last week, and that was prior to the balance patch. And the deck really isn't that much weaker. The loss of Crimson Sigil Runner, while it did hurt some of the crazy early game turns that Demon Hunter could have, the power cards that they have in the mid game are still there in full force. And if you consider players up Demon Hunter to be maybe a weakness in some lineups, winning the mirror matchup becomes that much more important.
Yeah, and I think that the most important thing to consider is that card draw consistency is a really big deal. When you start to impact the way people are drawing through their decks, that consistency just goes down in terms of how often they can get to their power cards, which is why it's a big deal to have that card drawn. So the Crimson Sigil Runner not being included, it doesn't mean that Demon Hunter is worse in power level directly. It just means that they can't hit that power spike as easily as they used to. Now that being said, let's go to this quest Warlock. Empanizado being one of the brave few piloting it, so definitely know that he has our vote of confidence. But against Demon Hunter, is this a deck that can fight against Demon Hunter well, TJ?
Honestly, I feel like it can. It's got a ton of early game removal and a surprising amount of healing. The combination of Morag Artificer plus Nether Breath is an 8 health heal plus a removal of anything on board. Sense Demons, because the only demons in the deck are the Moarg Artificers and the Arnasi Broodmothers. Sense Demons becomes a kind of a pseudo heal in itself, because on average you're healing 4 if you haven't drawn any demons yet. And the combination of like Dark Skies and Rain of Fire with Moarg Artificer, they have a ton of ways to just remove these pretty low health boards. The problem it seems with the deck in the matchup is if the Demon Hunter is able to not keep up in value, but get a little bit of additional value than they'd otherwise have in their deck, the Quest Warlock will struggle to just outright win the game, because they don't necessarily have the time in the later stages, and by later stages in this matchup, I mean like turn 7 and turn 8, to really get meaningful development behind removal turns. And if they just keep getting chipped away and are having trouble finding a win condition, that's an opening for the Demon Hunter. Especially since they have to use a lot of the tools that they normally use to win the game, like Nether Breath and Soulfire, combined with the Malagos for early game removal. It can be difficult, but the suite of removal that they have seems like it can carry them through a large portion of the game.
Empanizado does have options here. The Sense Demons just guaranteeing that he draws Arnasi Broodmother. Very convenient, but maybe in his mind that would be a little bit overkill for his healing. Instead, he could perhaps wait for a little bit, then use Sense Demons to recover some health, and then Plot Twist to draw them all back.
Well, you can still pull out the Moargs, and Moargs are just a good tool to have.
That's
in
true.
The matchup in general. So,
okay,
I think I'd like it just to spend the mana and guarantee get at least one Moarg in hand, because Moarg Rain of Fire will deal with mostly any early game board that Demon Hunter is going to be able to put out there.
It's true, and you do want to get that quest consistency out. So, yeah, I do end up liking that play. Now, the Volpera Scoundrel finds some pretty reactive cards, but he has Command the Illidari to summon 6 1/1s with Rush. Unfortunately, this is a deck that deals really well with it.
Go for a mystery choice.
Mystery choice for Metamorphosis.
Yeah. Or anything.
It could be even another I-Beam.
It, however, cannot be another mystery choice. Does take the I-Beam. Alright.
I-Beam seems to be the most important. Bloodyface actually is going to have hand space issues, as we're talking about, with that double skull. So it's best if he keeps his hand lean. Has that Twin Slice Glaive bound to depth, and then can Skull Gul'dan on 6. That is a good draw. Dark Skies clears the board here, I believe. 9 health on the board, 9 cards in hand.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Is there a more efficient way of our mana that we could be spending here?
Doesn't seem like it.
Well, there could be a hero power and the plot twist here. And you trust that you will be able to draw ways to respond to the board. The problem it becomes, what if your opponent develops and you can't respond? Because they play Glaive on a depth. You actually can't answer the whole board. So I think it's better to float the mana crystal.
Yeah. Just awkward. You generally want to be just, spending as much mana as you possibly can in the early game. just to efficiently draw cards. Even sometimes at the expense of life, because you do have a lot of efficient ways to gain life back. But that's one where, you know, if he doesn't draw removal off the plot twist and throws away removal, then he's in a rough spot.
Questing Explorer, very reasonable. I think Empanizado's sweating a little bit though because he wants to answer this Glaive Bound Adept. Zephyrus is not active though. And if you're looking at Empanizado's situation here, if he Soul Fires and I guess there's not that many awful discards, to be quite honest.
Plot Twist would probably be the worst.
Yeah.
Rain of Fire is not terrible.
Rain of Fire is not terrible, but you know, with Moarg Artificer and there's a lot of 2/2s that could potentially be coming out. You know, if I'm Bloodyface, I'm feeling a little bit more relieved about it.
Yeah.
His weakness.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Bloodyface just freeing up his hand, putting pressure on now.
Yeah, makes sense. I like this rather than using Skull first, because it keeps the constant pressure up, forces Empanizado to have removal, and you know, that type of playstyle for Demon Hunter, I think it's just better, where you spend your cards first and then draw cards later when you're out of stuff to play, or out of reasonable stuff to play.
Well, there's no dragon in hand for Nether Breath to get the full effect.
So many possibilities.
Empanizado can utilize one of these plot twists. In fact, if he hero powers and I believe plot twist, that would finish the quest, isn't it?
Yes. I thought he was at 9, but his natural draw from the turn put him at 10.
Right.
Yeah, so finish the quest, and if he picks up
Immediately hero
Dragon plus
power.
another Nether Breath, that could also be decent.
Wants to pick up some of his Brood Mothers. Is he not going to? All right, Nether Breath. Huge.
Could still tap and then get greedy and go for Moarg plus Nether Breath next turn to gain back some of the damage that he would have given up by tapping.
Yeah, there's just more problematic stuff happening.
Yeah.
Empanizado still pretty far from winning this game. So Bloodyface, when he's starting to push in, I know Empanizado's at 20, but your opponent plays Skull of Gul'dan. You're just starting to sweat a little bit because you understand that your opponent's burst potential has jumped up significantly.
Yeah. And this is the difficult part for Quest Warlock, where it's about turning the corner. You know, you need to find a way to win the game because Demon Hunter will just chip you down over the course of many turns. One of the biggest cards to be able to do that he has in his hand with Abyssal Summoner, which is just a huge, you know, power spike onto the board when you're holding so many cards.
Well, the Crazed Netherwing does answer this, but it deals 2 damage to himself. But the hero powers are not to be ignored here. I gotta say, the Abyssal Summoner is also pretty funny to think about being included, but you do tend to have a very big hand.
And you do need to find some way to pressure at some point in the game outside of just killing your opponent with Alexstrasza and Malygos. Wow.
Some way to pressure, huh?
Wow. That's huge because it puts a taunt in the way.
Oh, yeah.
It limits Bloodyface's lethal options by a lot.
Yes, unless Kane Sun Fury. Oh, and by the way, it's an 8/8.
Woo!
So you're talking about turning the corner. This is 15 damage showing.
I mean, bloodyface can get through it with Warglaives of Azeroth and a hero power, but he takes
I grow
16 in the process.
Right.
He can throw some development behind it as well, though, and you know he's still pushing 4.
Is it cold in the shadows?
Exactly. I think that's what's important, pushing the 4. And once more, you know, kind of making it difficult for Empanizado to deal with stuff. Because, yes, he takes 16, but Empanizado is going to take 4 more, so, and if he uses things like Dark Skies, he's clearing off his own dragon. So, that Abyssal Summoner did a good job stalling. That's all it's doing, it's just stalling. Wow, big pickup. No other he did have another dragon for the Crazed Netherwing also. Malagos is in hand. So what's the play here?
So many
What if we play the Abyssal Summoner and then go for Morg, Artificer, or Mortal Coil instead? Oh my! Hold on.
It's active.
Zephrys being 0 mana?
And it's active with 10 cards remaining.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's
so
pretty
many
big.
possibilities.
If he damages himself with the Crazed Netherwing, puts him at 9, he is dead to a lot of things. I think this Morg Artificer draw, and then he probably ends up using Zephrys to stall here.
Yeah. Oh! Oh boy!
He accidentally clicked on the Morg Artificer. Does find the Soul Cleave, so he recovers it and gains 8 health, but that was quite the blunder.
Actually,
that's what happens when you play too fast, TJ.
Actually, maybe that wasn't a blunder.
You sure?
Yeah, because if he draws a card, maybe he wants to manipulate that just for Soul Cleave.
Do you see what must be done?
I don't know if it gives you Soul Cleave with 1 minion on board. You have Morg Artificer, so you double the lifesteal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
That I mean, I think
it's
that's
probably a blunder, but I just want to point it out that he manipulated Zephrys to give him exactly Soul Cleave by doing it this way.
yeah.
Yes, he draws 1 less card deeper to his deck, but maybe his options are a little bit more limited if he doesn't go for that type of play.
Yeah. Okay. It incidentally worked out. Having 8 extra health is a really big deal in this spot. Oh my goodness. The Acidic Swamp Ooze. And that's a 2-turn lethal setup here. Crazed Netherwing into the Acidic Swamp Ooze. Alex Straza. So now you can Crazed Netherwing, Acidic Swamp Ooze, and Alex himself back up to 15.
Yeah.
And that might be too much. Quest Warlock putting quite the offensive here, and Bloodyface has used both Skull Gul'dans. I don't think there's a series of outs here for him.
I yield for now.
That's it. Empanizado up 2-0 over Division Leader Bloodyface, and a crucial victory here as the Quest Warlock gets through even without Priest being targeted.
Yeah, I mean, you can see just the sheer amount of healing that that deck can pack. He drew Arnasi Broodmother 3 times, had a Nether Breath, had a Morg Artificer Zephyr Soul Cleave, which gave him a ton back as well.
Right.
And then Alex draws at the end. It's kind of crazy just how bouncy their life total seems to be when you get to a certain point in the game. And you know, the difficulty closing things out, did show through in a few turns, but with Abyssal Summoner and with the ability to draw like 0 mana, just big bombs that you can play on the board, obviously not the most impactful Alex Strasza. It's not like he was worried about any lethals even at 13 with only 2 cards in hand. and both skulls and outros gone. It still just put an 80 on the board, which solidified the game for him. So I've been impressed by Quest Warlock playing with it and against it on ladder and testing and watching in other regions. It just seems like a really powerful deck that can win against just about everything.
Yeah, looks like Control Warlock is back on the menu of some capacity, and definitely an encouraging sign for sure. Let's go into game number 3. Spell Druid Mirrors. Bloodyface. Looks like he is deep in the tank, trying to focus on his mulligan, but with that hand, looks very nice. Fungal Fortunes and Overgrowth. That's exactly what you're looking for. Empanizado has some of that. He has Breath of Dreams and Overgrowth, but probably like to have that dragon in hand so that he can guarantee that empty mana crystal. Fungal Fortunes is a really nice consolation prize. And with these hands, TJ, we might have an explosive game.
We definitely could. Fungal Fortunes, though, is a lot riskier in Empanizado's deck.
Yes.
Since he has 6 minions in the deck, as opposed to 3 or 4 that we see normally in Spell Druid. Sometimes even 2.
Twin Tyrant, Alexstrasza, Ysera. It's a dragon Spell Druid. Really cool, really risky with Fungal Fortunes. Especially when you're trying to combine it. Just feels like there's some anti-synergy there with Breath of Dragons, Fungal Fortunes, and the Dragon package. And Empanizado, if he lets it rip, he could also just completely whiff and discard 3 dragons entirely. Unlikely, but... Oh, wow. I feel like if you're not going to play Fungal Fortunes on 2, then why'd you put all these dragons in your deck?
Yeah, the deck does seem a little weird to me. I called it out before, the lack of the Imprisoned Satyr makes it so, Malicos does go down in value pretty significantly. Because you're playing it for 9. No matter what, you're playing it for 9. Now, you do have 2 Moonfires in the deck, and if it sticks, you have a couple swipes as well. But it's anti-synergy with Fungal Fortunes. You don't have, these crazy combo turns and cost reductions.
What? How did he know?
All right,
all right, I'm going to draw Alexstrasza, and then I'm going to do this Fungal Fortunes. Which feels like if he did it in the other order, he would have hit this Wild Growth, and he would have been ramping.
So we had 23 cards left and 5 were minions, so... Tough math to do, but
So you said 23 cards?
23 cards and 5 of them were minions when he played Fungal Fortunes.
So... It was a 42% chance to not hit it.
To not hit a minion?
To not hit a minion.
I'll take those odds.
Yeah.
And even if you hit 1 minion, it's still okay.
I that's just ballpark, by the way. I don't do exact. So somewhere between 40-45%. So he was more likely to actually discard a minion there. Only so slightly. Not a big deal, though. It looks like that risk has paid off. Now he can go first here with a Glowfly Swarm, but he doesn't have any follow-up with reinforcing that board, and so it is vulnerable to a Starfall. And Bloodyface has astutely observed that there's a likelihood that Druids would make a comeback, so he plays Starfall in his own Druid deck to answer things like Glowfly Swarm.
It's really weird because Empanizado doesn't even have a way to capitalize on Glowfly Swarm in his deck. He only has 1 Glowfly Swarm. He doesn't play Soul of the Forest. No
powers of the wild.
No Gift of the Wild, nothing. So it's just... granted, Glowfly Swarm just by itself in a spell-heavy deck, which this still is despite the big dragons, is still just a very powerful 5-mana play. It puts a ton of power on board.
Okay. But what this does do is set things into motion. Bloodyface now kind of has to Starfall this. And if he doesn't have the Kael'thas...
Ooh, well... Yeah.
Wow.
Doesn't-
Oh, wow.
He's realizing the same thing that we just realized, where I don't have to starfall this. These are just 2/2s forever.
Right. Well, I mean, he didn't have an alternative play. So that was the reason why Starfall was most likely going to happen.
Yeah.
But because he picked up that Ysera, now he can just go ahead and ignore this. And then Empanizado, when he was going to be playing this Alex Straza proactively, doesn't have that ability to push 12 damage and set his opponent to critical life. So really well done here by bloodyface to observe that he doesn't need to react so strongly to it. That being said, I mean, Empanizado can still fully trade in Bog Beam, plays Alex Straza, and bloodyface is in a position where he needs to clear that minion or he's going to die.
Yeah. And double swipe in hand as well.
Right. In a way, it feels like this hybrid Dragon Druid is trying to capitalize on the best of both worlds. Like, you don't have to play like Indignant in your deck and just like hope that you draw the right curve because you have a lot of mana ramp and card draw. And Empanizado's like reaping the benefits for it. Again, it's a risky bring, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the Moonfire just to dump. It's going to heal anyways.
22 cards in deck, and 7 of them are portals, so
Oh
about
my!
a third of his deck.
That's a pretty good one. Skeletal Dragon finds its way, so he gets a random dragon for the turn.
Another one. Looking for Malagos. Oh,
Oh,
Ysera
wow,
works.
Ysera.
Waxadread.
Jeez.
Woo! Hand space could be
And-
an issue here, though.
Yeah. Maybe it's just best to power the wild and then heal yourself with crystal power here.
Yeah.
Forget like the Kael'thas plan. Just like reinforce the board and win through dragon tempo. We thought this was a spell druid, like, you know, mirror with some differences, but ends up just being a dragon druid mirror, TJ.
Yeah, just big dragons, and bloodyface, despite having less big dragons in his deck, has more big dragons on the board.
Oh yeah. That
Not
is
even
why
fair.
Ysera Unleashed.
Oh, jeez, what do you even do? You double swipe the Crazed Netherwing, trade over Skeletal Dragon, Crystal Power, Waxadread.
I'm thinking
Can't
about
even do that.
what can be drawn off the fungal fortunes that can help influence it, but the most influential cards are minions. Exotic Mount Seller, Malagos, and other things like that. I don't actually think there's any good minions. I think Empanizado might just be too far behind on tempo. That was very fortunate for bloodyface to draw 4 of the portals. And now Empanizado is just saying, I'm just going to have to let you do your thing and then hope that I'll be able to react the following turn. Oh, he finds Wrath and Bog Beam. That does allow him to kill off 2 of these minions on the board.
My hand is too full.
Face burns. But now he can set up the Soul of the Forest. And with the Savage Roar in hand, means that he should be able to press in for lethal. I don't think he even has to acknowledge the Alex Strauss. He can just go ahead and dream it. Chooses not to. He wants to get past an Iron Bark play.
Exotic Mount Seller just can't even bail him out here.
No, this looks like a double swipe, but it's still not even good enough.
Yeah,
Unless he gets a spell damage minion, which he can't.
No, you would have had to play Ysera Unleashed and get exactly Malagos off the portal.
Yeah, or Arcane Explorer.
Yep.
Or some other like plus spell damage dragon. I think there's one for Shaman.
Oh no!
Oh! Yeah, and I think this is the deck building risk that doesn't pay off for Empanizado. Like, it looked okay, until it just really fell apart in the mid game.
Yeah.
And bloodyface is gonna go ahead and roar his way to a Game 3 victory. Climbing back into this series. I wasn't sure about this Druid deck going into it, TJ, and I don't think this game has convinced me. I think Empanizado's draw was reasonably good in the early game. And it's still, like, kind of flopped once he just played that Alexstrasza. To be fair, though, he did have this small window of an opening where bloodyface didn't have anything to do besides Starfall, and I thought what was going to happen was bloodyface plays Starfall, his opponent plays Alexstrasza, he can't answer it, and then he would be forced to kind of like hope that he can do good. So there was that small opportunity, but that's also kind of a, you know, a very like optimistic perspective. Like I have to hope that my opponent doesn't have the right answers to this.
Yeah. We're very optimistic. Yeah. The holes in the deck showed through certainly there. Its comeback potential is much more limited than the Spell Druid, it seems. Just because they don't have power turns like Kael'thas, they can't protect the board with Soul of the Forest. He doesn't have Savage Roar. So, like your ability to win the game based off your opening hand, I feel doesn't even come close to matching that of the traditional Spell Druid. But you do pack a little bit more of a punch in the late game with, Alexstrasza and Malygos. So I still don't want to, write off the deck after one game, but yeah, it just seems weak right now. And we'll get a chance to see it more because it's the last deck that Empanizado has that he needs to win with if he wants to get his second win of the round robin. And now it's going to be tested against Demon Hunter, as we saw bloodyface lose in the mirror a little bit earlier.
Yeah. However, Demon Hunter has been good against Druid a lot of the times, just because they do have good pressure tools while Druid ramps and draws cards. And then even if they do set up these big walls, there are some opportunities for Tempo Demon Hunter to get through. You can Cane Sun Fury, pressure them down, you can Metamorphosis and burst them, and also just Altruist and clear off a lot of their boards regardless of how big they get with the Soul of the Forest. So it kind of requires Druid to have a very good hand to consistently out-pressure the Druid, but it's possible. Sometimes this Glowfly Storm goes unanswered. But Empanizado has fewer tools against that. When you're holding like Malygos and Alexstrasza with no discounts, I think you're going to struggle against Demon Hunter even more than usual.
Yeah.
So I'm not feeling high on the Druid versus the Tempo Demon Hunter right now. I think if Empanizado can sneak a win, by all means, but perhaps the Rogue is a more likely candidate for this Druid to get the win.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The deck does run slightly more removal than the normal Spell Druid. It runs double Wrath, double Bogbeam, double Crystal Power, double Moonfire, which, most of those are included in normal Spell Druid, maybe with the exception of double Wrath in run 1. But with Fungal Fortunes more likely to draw less spells, it's tough. And you really don't keep removal in this matchup. Yes, removal is nice, and you will need it. You need to mulligan for your powerful cards, your Fungal Fortunes, your ramp, because if all you do is keep removal, you're just going to be removing minions, and then you're going to run out of things to do. Eventually, you are going to have to draw spells and ramp, and that's when the more powerful stuff from Demon Hunter is going to come down. So you want to get out of the way early. All the removal spells still have pretty poor win rates against Demon Hunter because it's just not enough by itself, and that's why Empanizado, despite having the option to keep some removal like Crystal Power to be able to deal with a 1-drop, he threw it all away in search of specifically like Fungal Fortunes, Breath of Dreams, Wild Growth, Overgrowth, just to kind of accelerate his game plan a little bit. And you can already see, how does Empanizado even set up? Does he have to Bogbeam Moonfire this turn and then swipe next turn? Eventually he'll have to find a turn where he can draw Overgrowth and play it for 4 mana. And in the meantime, he's just going to be taking a significant amount of damage.
Yeah. I think that might be what's called for here. You don't even necessarily have that guarantee that you're going to be able to land that exotic Mount Seller and go for those power plays. So I agree with your assessment here. The Bog Beam does feel like the play this turn. It just feels so greedy to not kill off this Sightless Watcher. Because if you don't, you might get heavily punished. And this would have been a pretty severe punishment.
Is it cold in the shadows?
Like that Blade Face isn't waiting too much. Says, I have 3-drop, I play it.
Oh,
That's a big time draw. Those are some big boy draws here for Empanizado.
with double Ironbark in hand too. That exotic mouncer could be big with an overflow follow-up. Bloodyface kind of rolling his eyes a little bit.
Oh, that's huge. So big.
Yeah. Bloodyface has to put on pressure like now.
Do you...
Okay,
You know
Warblade.
what's so funny too about all this is that Empanizado is not playing any of like the tech that he put in. He put an entire package into this Druid deck to help him with like priests and whatnot, and he might just win through just the good old exotic mount seller ramp play.
Yeah.
That's if he does. The thing is, he's not answering this board. His Ironbark will
Well.
pawn up.
Rush minions? Nope. Desert Hair.
Do you Ironbark the Mount Seller again? Might as well, right? Because
Yeah.
what's presented on board almost kills that Mount Seller guaranteed.
Yep.
Actually, it is guaranteed because of the hero power, so I think you do it again.
Okay.
Better?
Well,
Desert Hair is pretty subpar, and we knew Bloodyface was going to draw this Workless of Azeroth, which is a full clear.
it is, but it's a lot of damage that he has to take in order to make it happen. Though, you know, it's not like he's in a lot of danger. He'll most likely use the Frozen Shadow Weaver to deal the last 4 hit points for the exotic mount seller, just so he doesn't have to take 7 again. And he will be pushing even more damage this turn with, you know, Chaos Strike to follow up and potentially draw more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's taking 17 damage this turn.
Oh,
My goodness.
There's no way. He's
TJ, super greeting. Wow. And if he doesn't kill, it's 1-1. Okay. But it's putting him just inside that critical range. And Empanizado, he's 1 damage off lethal. And Bloodyface knows that. But yet, if he goes for that overflow heals him for 5 with 7 showing. He's still within that critical strike distance.
Yeah.
This was very well thought out by Bloodyface, demonstrating masterful knowledge of breakpoints of what Empanizado can and can't do, and taking the appropriate risk. If you win by 1 health or 1,000,000 health, it doesn't matter in Hearthstone.
Yeah. He also technically gave up Empanizado an out with Moonfire draw off the top.
He did see a Moonfire, though.
He did see a Moonfire, and the odds of double swipe Moonfire were pretty low. But he could have taken 3 damage instead, pushed the same amount, and had a 3-2 instead of a 4-3. He would have pushed 1 less damage.
But then, I mean, he would have saw a Moonfire the previous turn with the Mountain.
Yeah, I was saying like a Moonfire off the top, but 1 in 18
Right.
is
Yeah.
pretty low odds.
Very, very low odds. I think that is appropriate measure to take here.
And this
Hate
is
Sun Fury.
2 off lethal, I believe.
It's close. Not quite.
Yeah.
Empanizado doesn't have the lethal either. He can react, double swipe. Clears off all of this.
Yep.
And then he's just dead to a single point of damage here from Bloodyface.
Yep. But honestly, what can you do? He has Alex Straw's out next turn if Bloodyface can't kill him to heal himself back up to 15. Maybe buy him some time.
Right.
But both Ironbarks are gone, so he doesn't have a way to taunt up anymore.
Asking this Demon Hunter deck to not have a single point of damage is ambitious. I would say, like, 20 cards just say damage on it, and then the other cards like help them generate damage. It's pretty optimistic to say the least here. Another Skull of Gul'dan.
9 out of the 18 cards in his deck, so 50% of the cards in his deck dealt 1 damage. And the rest
That's
drew
pretty
cards.
Yeah.
So it's
Still though, with
50-50 that
double
he
swipe
hits it,
used.
essentially.
And I think he still might have lethal even through an Alexstrasza right now. Oh my. Okay, so overflow again. What does that do?
Fog Beam Overflow. We can draw Crystal Power.
He's already used 1. I feel like you gotta go for the overflow here because you just know your opponent can generate damage from the hand. We of course know that Empanizado's dead either way, but unless he draws,
if he draws
Crystal Power.
Exactly Crystal Power and Hero Powers. Because right now Bloodyface has 10 burst damage in hand. And then another 5 coming the next turn, but 10 in hand. So Overflow plus Crystal Power. Actually, he doesn't need Hero Power, I guess.
Right.
But
He needs to draw. He's gonna burn a card here too.
My hand is too
Alright,
full.
can still find it with Breath of Dreams.
Breath of Dreams. And
Nope.
that's gonna do it.
Yep.
It's tough too because with this pass, if you drew Malygos, that also means that things like Moonfire would be stranded. But Bloodyface is just gonna go ahead and run over the Druid, and yeah, the Druid struggles continue. If Empanizado loses the next game, that would mean the reverse sweep would have come down onto this Druid, and Empanizado gamble of trying to face off against the priests and utilize his slower decks to try to combo them out of the game would not have paid off. So Bloodyface up, not up rather, but he has equalized the series at 2 games apiece. And now all of a sudden Bloodyface 1 game away from going 5-0 in his division and locking his top 4 spot.
Honestly, it feels like he might even be up because this Druid deck is not. I'm not sold on it still. Even with a decent start, you know, he was able to find early removal to contest the board, found ramp right on time, went for a big exotic Mount Seller turn, and still lost. And that seems like as powerful as that deck can be in that matchup is exactly there. Exactly, you know, what he just did with ramp and early game removal. So we'll see. The Rogue is a lot slower, and there might be an opportunity for him to have a little bit of additional time to set up these big threats. But there's a lot of awkward things that the Secret Rogue can do, especially with Blackjack Stunners on these big expensive dragons. Because, like we mentioned, Malygos is coming down for 9. That's it. He can innervate and, you know, hold on to coin for the whole game. Malygos, coin, innervate, swipe. Moonfire, sure. You don't have that much time. And even cards like Ambush can sometimes be difficult to deal with when you just want to play a big thing in a turn. So we'll see if he can find the ramp that he needs to be able to accelerate his game plan and get out of range of all the crazy stuff that Bloodyface can do if he's also given time.
All right, well, I mean, only time will tell. We're at that point of whether or not this question mark of a Druid deck can get through and breathe new life. Perhaps a new dream. I was waiting for the A to.
Well, I was
Empanizado's
thinking
GM career.
I was thinking, what is Alexstrasza's entrance line?
I bring life and.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Yes.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Verbatim. I'm pretty sure Alexstrasza is trying to say priest, but just kind of pukes in the process of saying it because Alexstrasza is naturally the predator of these decks.
Yeah.
She just drains all their life, or half their life rather, and then you combo the rest. Well, there you go, Breath of Dreams. Now we've drawn the big inside of the deck, so to speak, the ramp druid.
This is a lot of ramp.
Yeah. And
Holy
I mean,
moly.
it's kind of what we're talking about. He has what theoretically sounds like the best of both sides, right, of the deck. There's also an ugly side to both, which is you have things like Glowfly Storm and all stuff, but no way to cement your board. And then you have like all these dragons, but you don't have like enough tempo to swing because you don't get the time to play all your cards. And so I will say that if Empanizado loses still with this deck, there's just no hope for this deck.
There's
outside of
no
just
hope.
hoping that you sweep Priest.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a cheese strat. You're just hoping that it can line up well into one specific class, and
Yeah.
that's too big of a risk in Conquest. In Conquest, you have to balance your deck. You can't just all in trying to beat one archetype.
Bloodyface has seen ramp in all 3 games now that he's played against Empanizado's Druid, and every time he rolls his eyes. You've beaten him twice!
Right.
Stop
He's
rolling your eyes!
doubling
doesn't
Bloodyface's
matter.
mana crystals, basically,
Yeah.
right? He has up to 8 mana available this turn, while Bloodyface plays 4. And you're still going to tell me that he doesn't have enough mana to play his cards? Is this not a coin Twin Tyrant here? I'm kind of surprised if he chooses not to.
Coin Twin Tyrant. You can even throw an Iron Bark on it. What's he gonna do to get through it? You need Secret plus Blackjack Stunner to get through it.
Right, which I think is a case to make to not go for that Iron Bark.
Yeah, I suppose. But at the same time, the payoff for it. If Bloodyface like tries to sink damage into it to set up to kill it, he just overflows it back the next turn. It also dumps cards from his hand in preparation for the overflow.
Right.
But I do see a lot of merit to holding on to it just because of the possibility of Blackjack Stunner. The 9-mana Twin Tyrant, probably not something that you want.
Yeah. That pretty much was the ideal setup here for Empanizado, that Twin Tyrant would shut down both of the smaller minions and no damage done to the Bone Wraith. However, Bloodyface says, you know what? Playing big stuff is pretty cool.
But I never learned the truth. The Brotherhood shall prevail.
And an 8/8 Edwin hits the board, threatening potential lethal. Would take quite an extraordinary hand for Bloodyface, but Empanizado probably wants to utilize his removal some capacity. However, this is the opportunity to drop cards like Overflow. His hand is primed for it because he can utilize that extra, or rather the need to dump a card through Iron Bark. And he has 2 Overflows. Like, there's no way you can play both of them as the game develops when the pressure is starting to really mount up here. So this is a tricky spot. Tricky spot.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's no way to get like a good amount of value out of the Twin Tyrant attacking and then overflowing, because you'd like Iron Bark attack, then heal up the reborn version of the minion. So it'd still be like the same amount of power on board. Same amount of power plus health on board.
Right. Except you heal your own dragon.
Yeah.
And
I guess you do with the first side of the Bone Wraith.
Right. Crystal Power himself. Wow. I guess he's just trying to be mana efficient. He has 2 Crystal Powers, so if he were to use Malygos and Bog Beam, that would be 10 mana already.
Yeah.
Bloodyface does have 2 invocations possible for the Galakron, but if he does play Kronks here, he's not answering the board. He only has 11 power showing against 13. And he also still needs to play his Seal Fates and his Shield of Galakron, most likely. Otherwise, his Galakron's not even going to be able to draw a significant amount of cards. So from here, Bloodyface might end up having to slow down a little bit, no matter what he chooses. And that's why that overflow play setup was very clever by Empanizado, so that way he doesn't allow his dragon just to die. All right. Is it Mally time?
Mally
Your
goes
opponent clearly
off the Edwin.
Yeah, he doesn't have a secret. He would have played it. He doesn't have a Blackjack Stunner either, and you're asking him to have both. You know one of the 4 cards in hand is Galakron. TJ, it feels like an opportunity to potentially blow this game wide open through a Malagos here. Am I overestimating it?
No.
Love that entrance. Bloodyface needs some help. He needs flick. Wait. Nope. That was evil miscreant.
Oh.
And if not, he is in for a world of pain soon.
I mean, well, it's even the best odds. Try and juice up the Galakron first, and then have a better odds to hit, like pretty much exactly flick. Just not a good spot at all.
I think Bloodyface says, just let that Malagos survive. Do what I can with this.
Well, we can take a value trade and go for a Witchy Lackey here, but his board's going to be gone.
Yeah, single swipe will deal at least 5 damage to everything. Oh my goodness. Swipe actually does kill everything with 1 hit. I wonder if it's actually correct to just double swipe the face here. Push almost game-ending damage. That's really close to lethal. That's 28 damage if he uses everything right now.
So do you start off with a Breath of Dreams? A Moonfire? Or Wrath?
Good Wrath, yeah.
Yeah.
Wrath would be good. I was thinking about using Crystal Power on my minion.
Okay.
So that way I can heal up and make a big taunt. It's very clear Bloodyface is desperate to try to clear off this big taunt, but he can't. That swipe's always happening. That swipe is also happening. I guess he just hero powers and pushes opponent down to 1.
Makes sense. If Bloodyface does, though, Galakron and draw exactly flick, he can flick the Malagos and rush the Twin Tyrant. He gets 2 draws. No! What?
That's flick! That's a Faceless Corruptor!
Woo! Now he can rush the flick and then Faceless Corruptor, the Goblin Lackey, to present...
Is it? Yeah.
And he just has 8 worth of stats on board?
Yeah, and Empanizado has no good Alex target. Doesn't want to do it to himself. Doesn't want to do it to his opponent. He could play the Titanic Lackey instead, but he already saw a Moonfire and 2 swipes being used.
Yeah.
The line of damage Empanizado has now is very limited.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
Dark damage left in the deck.
2 out of the 18 cards there from Bloodyface was drawn. I was like, I can't believe it, dude. I can't believe it. It was specifically flick.
It had to be flick, and it had to be Goblin Lackey too, or else he was also dead. I mean, I guess the Faceless Corruptor would allow him to clear, but this is just like the worst case scenario.
Right, it was the worst case scenario. You got development and he got removal. Bloodyface could have also drawn like Secret plus Blackjack Stunner and could have had Blackjack Stunner in hand.
Yep.
So there was possibility still, but it wouldn't be anywhere near as strong as specifically this. So, you know, some high highs and low lows of this game. Empanizado with an explosive start, Bloodyface getting the exact cards to respond to it in his hour of need. Now Empanizado has to pick up the pieces. And once more, he had a 29 damage turn, and you're telling me he can't close it out here?
Yeah, that's insane.
What if he just discards the other dragons and minions in his hand?
He has
Or in his
Sarah
deck, rather.
Leash and 2 Mount Sellers? Okay, it was only one.
Oh,
And
Bloodyface.
Bloodyface knows, because that was essentially his only way to develop a big enough board to come back enough to win the game, essentially.
That was huge. Now, Bloodyface, I don't think he's going to lose the board anymore. Now he has taunts. He's got Shield the Galakron. He's got Titanic Lackey. Going to go ahead and just think about what's the best way to sequence this. First, Seal Fate to react to what he's going to do. There's a lot of lackeys that can help pick apart the 2/2s.
Empanizado still has a lot of health left. And Exotic Mount Seller still there. So there is a chance for some crazy stuff happening with Zixer. He has a pretty thin deck, which means that he'll likely draw
Okay.
Zixer Prime if he gets it up in time. Flick's gone, so maybe those stick. Bloodyface is still at 6. I mean,
Right.
it won't take much.
Right.
I supply only the finest creatures.
And he's got at least 3 beasts. I'm Empanizado. I think there also is merit to potentially siphoning the Wrath, but I think you want to kill off something.
Yeah.
Oh, what? TJ, how'd you do that?
Well, I just have to say, Bloodyface cannot be upset about this situation.
What? Are you kidding me?
He got like one of the only cards that kept him alive. And Empanizado was like, yes.
A cloud fiesta.
Oh, man.
Nothing. Power.
Now he can't even answer the Mount Seller. Because he committed all his faceless corruptors to clearing the 2/2s.
What about Waxmancy and look for Flick?
What is he looking for with this daring escape? He's looking just directly for assassination options. He finds it. And he can bamboozle.
Yeah, I don't
moment.
think there's any damage being sunk into this lackey, though.
I mean, Empanizado might hero power it down because there's still the threat of the.
Well, I think at this point, like Empanizado's saying, all these hero powers are probably going face because all I have to do is hero power you a couple more turns, and you're dead. It puts him on like a 2-turn clock outside of taunts.
Yeah, I wonder about that. I wonder if Alexstrasza here is the best play. I know that there's a lot of opportunities. You can Wild Growth and Cycle and hit the 2 out of 8 on the Zixor and still put it out. But Alexstrasza is a guaranteed 8/8. You do go down to 16, but your opponent is not going to be threatening, and then you could still do the thing. You could still go for Zixor next turn. He's going for it. Yeah, that was not the pan out that Empanizado was hoping for. He's just gonna overflow.
Time waits for no one.
I don't know. Wow, Zixor not really finding a way to the hand. He was very far off from it. But the nice thing is that now he picks up. Oh my goodness. Fog Beam onto a 1/1 to stop the Ice Baron Togwoggle.
I mean, it doesn't even stop it because he just has a lackey in hand.
Right.
But
So
I think
now how does Bloodyface pull himself?
Put as much power on board as possible? I don't know. Zixor is guaranteed to be in hand
Right.
because he had 2 and he only have 1 card left at the end of his turn.
So he does have Shielded Galakron, and Zixor does summon 4/5s. So if he finds Titanic Lackey, he can make Shielded Galakron inefficient for Empanizado to trade into, but he does have a Wrath.
Yeah, I
These are still dry.
Another thing too is that Bamboozle might actually be super good.
yeah. Honestly, I wonder if Blackjack Stunner is even relevant in this situation.
Right.
Because
Oh my.
okay. Because Blackjack Stunner, like on a Zixer, you don't want to do that because then he gets 4 more. Granted, it's
Right.
9 mana, but still, like, I think I'd rather have things on board in this situation.
I'm almost out of
And yeah, the Bamboozle could make things awkward. There's second Zixer Prime. Because Bloodyface is not anywhere close to killing him. So he has to
Yeah.
get through all of this stuff. Now, fatigue will start to tick. That is true. But Empanizado also has Alexstrasza at any point in the game, so Bloodyface has to, at each individual turn, not only clear the board, because he's at 8, but also try and set up some type of aggressive
Yeah.
game plan.
If he had Alexstrasza on the board, he would have been able to push that 8. But I guess he didn't have the Wrath, and he wouldn't know that he would have Bog Beam. His Evolve is huge, potentially.
Oh!
And everything just falling Empanizado's way here
Ugh.
towards the later end of the game. And Bloodyface is devastated.
time waits for no one.
This is a Hearthstone karma. Just keeps
It's just
swinging back and forth. It's a
super
pendulum.
swingy.
Yeah.
I think Empanizado can take the 2 damage. I
Yeah.
think you're okay, man.
Yeah.
I think you're good, buddy. Cobalt Lackey, Evil Miscreant, and at this point, he knows that there's not direct damage in the hand, but there's going to be several waves of pressure, and he's going to have to hope that these lackeys can help bail him out.
I think he just might be dead. He knows that second Zixar Prime is in hand. If he knows the cards remaining,
Well, he
Yeah.
can actually kill 2 of them.
he needs to kill 2 of them. If he went for Squall Hunter there, then he would have died.
Right. So you can go ahead and evolve and Goblin Lackey and trade. Okay, reasonable enough. It looks like Bloodyface doesn't want any more part of this. Empanizado narrowly escapes with his hybrid Dragon Druid deck. And what a risk that was, because everything had to go right for Empanizado.
Yeah.
Everything went right from his opening draw, and then had to randomly generate a win condition in order for him to barely win the game.
Yeah.
Because if it was very close to just starting to become too far apart, like I know that the game life total ended like 29 to like 0, but if he lost that board for an extra turn and had to to heal everything, overflow, and he healed all of his opponents like Face's Corruptor copies back to 4/4s, that would have been the end of the game. So quite an amazing series of events for Empanizado to come back and win Game 5 and give him some fighting chance in this division, because without that, he'd be struggling at 1-4.
Yeah. And it's Bloodyface's first loss as well. Bloodyface 4-1 now. He was guaranteed playoffs, but obviously wanted to get up there in those higher seeds. Because technically, you know, even though it's hard to measure like strength of field as much in Hearthstone, you do technically have an advantage by being higher seed because you're playing against someone who's like the lowest seed. But because of, you know, just variance in Hearthstone in general, there's usually not much difference once you're in that playoff picture. But yeah, kind of crazy back and forth game and a crazy series overall.
It was nuts.
Went the distance. I didn't have faith in that Druid deck, but you know, he wins the game by doing Druid things regardless. The spell Druid things regardless. I mean, the turn where he dealt 29 damage to Bloodyface was also quite good. the double swipe with the Malagos, setting him to 1.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. So
And that was like kind of things lining up really nicely.
Yeah.
Rogue could have had removal in the hand for that Malagos, but it was a risk worth taking, and I think that was a good play. I think, like, ultimately, I don't think there's anything wrong with the play of Empanizado that last game. It was just that was the correct play to bring this deck in general, right? Like, it was more of a preparation lineup question than it was. I feel like Empanizado made the best with what he's got, making lemonade. And by all means, that's what sometimes is called for in Hearthstone or any game of variance. But man, wow, what a game 5. And if that was like a season-ending loss for bloodyface, I would feel a lot worse. But he's 4-0. I think he can afford to take an L here and there. Obviously, he'd prefer to win. He's a competitor, and he really wants to end number 1. But man, what a series!
Yeah.
If you thought that was good, wait till you see series number 2 here. Gallon has his Quest Warlock